The next panel discussion is all about data privacy versus personalization in lending. So now, for that, the next panel discussion would like to call the moderator on the stage, and that's none other than the Director, Business Development, Financial Services, Lead Squad, Mr. Vineet Sharma. Can we please have a huge round of applause for him? Mr. Vineet Sharma, yes. Okay, and now would like to call the panelist on the stage. Mr. Ravi Doshi, Chief Executive Officer, Mirai Asset Sher Khan Financial Services Limited. All of you, please welcome him on the stage. Moving on to the next one, we have in the list Mr. Pravesh Das, Founder and CEO, Earthen Finance. Next, would like to call on the stage to join the panel discussion, Mr. Mohit Marel, Risk Head, Vastu Finserv India Private Limited. Mr. Vikas Dhankar, CTO, Neo Growth Credit Private Limited. And last but not the least, Mr. Sirish Mehta, Head Loan Management IT, Piramal Finance Limited. All right, Vineet sir, the stage is all yours.
So good afternoon all. Let me start by thanking the audience, my fellow exhibitors, delegates and dignitaries, and the panelists here. This is my pleasure to moderate this panel discussion with all of you. So to the audience, the topic that we are discussing today is, the data privacy and personalization in lending. So while both go hand in hand, we often discuss the right amount of balance between the two. Because obviously when you want to personalize anything to a customer from a product standpoint, you need to know about the customer, right? So what is that extent to which you want to know about the customer without it becoming too much of creepiness, but at the same time deliver the experience that the customer wants. So our topic of discussion is around those lines, and I'm happy to have Ravi, Pravash, Vikas, Mohit and Sirish here. So the first question that I have today, maybe I'll start from you, Ravi. How do the lenders should strike the right balance between a hyper-personalization experience, which is very important, and at the same time, protecting customer privacy? Where is that thin line?
Okay, so there is a very thin striking balance between the hyper-personalization and privacy. So while hyper-personalization is good to give a customer a wow experience, the faster turnaround time, the quick loan processing, at the same time, privacy has its own consent of data overreach, consent and trust. So a couple of things to balance that strategy. What we can have is, first is the customer education. Customer should be clearly communicated as to what their data is used, why it is used, and how it is going to get benefit to them. Second is, we should have a privacy by design. So in every product development stage or the journey, we should have a privacy principles embedded into it. So that will help customer understand at every point of time that what is he sharing to. And also we should use the algorithms more seriously and diligently. The third is data minimization. We should take very minimal data what is required for. In the quest of getting to know customer more, we tend to get more data which may not use it. So we should focus on high quality and high impact data. And we should have a granular consent. Today we are not, the consent is being taken as a sake of consent. and it is mere a compliance tool rather than meaningful engagement to the customer. So if you take a granular consent saying that this data is going to be used for your location based data is going to be used, or your transactional data or your behavioral data, so I guess those things will help. So the striking balance, we have to continuously evolve onto it, because personalization without privacy, is intrusive. And if you have a privacy without personalization, it will be very impersonal. So the sweet spot lies, understanding it and ultimately giving it more transparency, more clarity and the customer interest at the center. Thanks.
Thanks, Ravi. I think one line that you said, I think that was beautifully articulated, that, privacy should be an integral part of the product design itself. And once it is embedded in the thought and concept, I think that's when it becomes much easier to hyper personalize, at the same time, respecting the privacy. I would pick up one more thought. Maybe Mohit, would you like to add to this thing?
Yeah. So, uh, before I start, I would like to thank Vineet that he has given us this opportunity to discuss on a very, very important topic. It's a very relevant question and a very relevant topic. Today, this personalization and privatization of the data has become so important. People think that this is something which will, which can compromise things. But, without getting certain personalized data, without getting certain personalized information, everyone knows that we will not be able to lend, or we will not be able to underwrite anything. So, having said that, I will say that we should, the personalization and the privatization should complement each other, and then we can take this forward. So, having said this, probably what we should do is some of the key points I would like to say on this is we should keep it to the minimum. I mean, if let's say that, for example, if I am able to generate the cash flows with the help of a account aggregator, and if I'm able to underwrite with that data, I don't need to then ask for additional data points and making customer feel that we are asking for too much of data. I mean, uh, to to put it in a layman's language, simply, if I go to my favorite restaurant, and if the waiter knows that how much spicy I need, I'll be very happy. But at the same time, if he says that I've checked your grocery bill and you already ordered a ice cream, so why do you need a dessert? I'll feel creepy. Boss, why are you getting into my personal things? So there has to be a clear cut demarcation between this, and we should, in this way we can definitely uh, uh, create a bifurcation between how to use the data and what exactly needs to be used, so that the customer doesn't feel that we are getting into his own space, but at the same time he knows that yes, this specific data is required to underwrite the loan. So having said that, there has to be a very, very clear cut demarcation between these kind of things. Thank you.
So I think uh, very good insight that, maybe we don't need to collect plethora of data to personalize. Again, I think, and that has some bit of parlance to what Ravi said, that, while you're designing the product and when you're designing the journey, privacy should be the one of the first elements. So thanks for this insight. And maybe building further on the same lines, my question, Ravi, I would like to ask you, what is your take? Do people really understand when they are agreeing to a certain terms and conditions, or the consent that they are giving? And what if this is beautifully done? Can this kind of a consent can play a role in hyper personalization as well?
Yeah, so I think I leave that to audience. I mean, including me, I hardly read the consent. So it's a left-hand side, a small square box you click, because the urgency in which the customer wants to complete the journey. Hardly anybody reads the terms and conditions. Even if you have to compulsory click the terms and condition, you scroll down to the bottom and move ahead. So, and that's the negative aspect, because also it is to the institutions or the lenders like us. The consent is so too lengthy or so too complicated, and which leaves the essence of the consent, or the making the customer understand or educate. So I think what will be good is if you have a very simpler consent, maybe a consent with the visual cues, and take the consent again repeated message on the each journey. So if you are doing a KYC, you may take a KYC specific consent saying that the KYC may be used for so and so purpose. And when you are doing your bank mandate, you mentioned that. So, and consent is at the heart of it, because unless customer knows how is he going to use those consent, how the lenders are going to use the consent, as what Mohit explained, if somebody get intrusive of giving a choice between ice cream and a dessert, is not going to please a customer.
Yeah, just to add, what he said, what you look at is, one is the consent what we signed today, and the second one, why while looking at the consent, it's a design issue. You will never find ki I do not accept. There is a tick box and I accept. Even if you do not want to accept, you can't proceed further. Secondly, there will be hundreds of clauses. Let's say you are not okay with 3 clauses. There is no way you can say because I don't agree with these 3 clauses, right? So it's simply the design issue what most of the lender do it, and they do not keep that in mind. If customer is not agreeing to this, what will happen next, right? So it was never considered, and when you do not think in those lines, probably it is a flaw in the design itself rather than whether you accept or not.
Yeah, and I think I particularly like that insight that, the consent is made in such a way that, it's almost impossible to understand it. And that's why we all end up ticking the box and move ahead. And there is some sense of urgency at those points in time, but it can really be made a little more articulative in nature. So I think that's a good insight. So maybe I would like to maybe take someone else's input as well. Sirish, any thought on the same lines that, how can a consent be made more innovative? Can this contribute to hyper personalization? What's your view?
Yeah, Vineet. Yeah, so thank you for the question. So yes, concerns are very important from a
Voice,
We
leader
are
point
not
of
able
view.
to hear you. If you
Hello?
can. Yeah, you will have to hold it a little.
Okay.
near.
So concerns are very important for lenders. I do understand, but from a borrower point of view, for him, it just right now the situation is there's a checkbox that they check in and move next. Where the problem arises, cause the user doesn't know what sort of concern he is giving in, which team has already highlighted it. Plus, there are other problems that we come across. What sort of a data we are collecting in, where we are going to use it, user doesn't know, and then suddenly some offer we give and they say, अरे ये offer मुझे कैसे आ गया? मैंने तो कुछ बोला ही नहीं था, अचानक से मुझे कहाँ से आ गया? And then all the problem starts coming in. So a better way, which Mohit has suggested, rather than just doing a list of 25 items there in a textual format, you just go ahead and do a sign and you go proceed further. That rather than going into that, let's move it a step forward where we just go back where a user is filling in the details. At that time itself, if we can put it in a gamified way or in a graphical presentation, yes, this is what the data that we are collecting from you, your name, date of birth, KYC details, and we are going to use it for this particular thing. If we can articulate it at front and we take those consent, that would be much broader and easier way for user as well, or a borrower plus the lender, all both can work together and can sort all this mishap that happens.
A very interesting take there, Sirish. The next question, I think we all understand that we are living in an era where intelligence will play a major role in everything that we do, in regular life, especially in technology, and it will leave no nook and corner. So definitely machine learning and AI technology can also be leveraged when it comes to hyper personalization. And I'm sure we all agree here that in the next sort of wave of hyper personalization, they will have a better role. But we all know that there are nuances to it, in terms of regulatory and compliance standpoint. So maybe Vikas, one question to you. Uh, do you think that we will reach a point very near in the future where hyper personalization can be done by using algorithms and machine learning and AI with still adhering to the requested levels of anonymization and data security by the regulators? What is your view?
Sure. I think yes. And why? Is
Yeah,
it
you'll have to
audible now?
hold it a little nearer. Yeah.
Is it
to mouth.
better?
Yeah, better.
Okay. So the short answer is yes. AI, machine learning algorithms are used and are already in use to make personalization and even go to an extent of a hyper personalization. Now, and for that we need to understand when we talk about personalization, right? If a human has to create a personalization a recommendation for you, right? The kind of data points we can process and make our recommendation is 5, 6, or 10, right? But when it comes to machines, right, they can process hundreds of parameters and attributes about you to come up with personalization, and they can go to the next level of hyper personalization also, which if the question is asked to you, how did they arrive with this kind of a recommendation, you will not be able to comprehend that how can someone know so much about myself, right, that even I don't know, right? But the question is that where do we draw the line, right? And this has to be governed by strict principles and guidelines, which, like I think one of the panelists also mentioned, and that has to be baked into the system itself, which we can call as the guardrails, right? And before you are sending that data or collecting that data, which involves your personal traits or private information, which you would not like to share, right? Those controls and guardrails should be in place that can either anonymize that information or encrypt that information before sending this data to the system to learn from it and then start making those recommendations. Yeah, and there are a lot of techniques available, like one of the technique is that wherein the insights or patterns you draw uh, on the client side end devices itself, and then you just send those insights, you just strip away all those personal information. The other could be you can add more noise to the entire information. When you are sending, say, 10 data points, right, you can add another 5 or 6 so that it is very difficult to identify where exactly or for which person it is coming from.
I think very interesting that adding noise to the parameters that are being considered in personalization. But as we all know that, some of the AI engines, we are still figuring out how do they process data, how do they understand, how much they know, do they tell you the truth every time? So, but I think putting guardrails could be one way to look at it. Yeah. Thanks for this insight, Vikas. There. Maybe I have another question for you. Would you like to talk more about, uh, what kind of trust erosion, we are looking at when it comes to hyper personalization? And I mean, when we go for hyper personalization, we also need to ensure that there is loyalty on the customer side. So how about that balance here?
Yeah. So I think what is very important, and the business or the organization need to understand that trust is very important when it comes to loyalty, right? And the moment through your personalization recommendations or hyper personalization, the person will feel that this is where something has intruded and how did they get to know about this, right? That's where your trust will erode. So one of the example is that if, say, for example, the websites that you are traversing, right, or the apps that you have installed on your mobile applications, right, and if they're tracking your history, your search history, that is something, and on top of that they start recommending you, right, which you never wanted. So one way to deal with it is when you are collecting the data from the customer, right, And this again comes back to the consent, right? For you, you might be okay to say that, okay, that's fine. You can traverse my browsing history and recommend me the right products, features, whatever I need, right? But for other person, it may not be. And that's where the consent can come into play, where you can tell them that these all that information that we are capturing to serve you better. Now it is the choice with the end customer whether to go for it or not.
I think I can relate to it. There was a time, and I'm talking about 4 or 5 years back, when, whatever I have browsed on a website, if I come back to the same website, and if the interface that I see has a glimpse of what I did last time, it felt good that, I don't have to start from scratch. But, now whatever I search on browser is being recommended on Amazon, and sometimes I felt that, whatever I'm talking in the day, when I scroll Insta, relevant ads are coming. That's like too much of creepiness. So I think I understand that, trust and loyalty go hand in hand, and, too much of hyper personalization for many people will not act well, as long as there is a proper consent taken with the cues on what Ravi described. I think if this is cooked well, it can come out as a very good recipe. Thanks for this insight. So next question is, and Pravas, I'll ask this to you, that how can lenders demonstrate value to customers in exchange of their data? Because finally, personalization is important to serve the customer, and privacy is equally more important, or rather more important. So it's also about delivering value in exchange of that data. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so let's look at, we are in the business of lending, right? And what we do, we give loans which is intangible, and it is primarily based on trust, because people value trust more than anything else. And what this trust generate, it is basically, against the conversation or data we share. So today, most of these NBFCs or banks look data as their asset. But in my opinion, it has to be shared between the customer as well as the NBFCs or banks. So it's a co-assets rather than a co-owned by both NBFCs and the customers rather than only by NBFCs. So when you own it or there is a joint ownership, you have more obligations to keep those data secured, because data security, data privacy is non-negotiable today. You can't just tamper with those data or sit idle doing nothing, right? That is one. The second thing is what type of data you collect. So when you talk about the NBFCs, banks, or all the lenders, we keep hearing that through AI and ML, we analyze thousands data points, and we give or recommend the loans and all. But actually, if you look at model, really doesn't understand 1,000 data points, because if you push 1,000 data points, it creates a lot of noise, and it doesn't give you appropriate or super hyper recommendations. You need very, very selective data where your model works and gives you the recommendations. So you need to filter it out, and when you filter it out, you exactly know how many data points you want to collect. And if you have to be super transparent with the customer, saying, hey, I am collecting these data points which are helping you to get the loans, for an example. And also you have to give value against those data. Let's take an example. We keep talking, getting data through account aggregators, right? In the previous discussions, we had discussed about how account aggregator is enabling us to fetch data on a regular interval. Customer knows his data is fetched at a regular interval, let's say once in a month, 5 times in a month, all those things. So how do you give value to those customers? Is like you see a surge in his GST return in the last quarter. You see there is a 30% surge in the GST return. You can go and recommend, saying, hey, your GST return has gone up. I am recommending you a 30% increase or 25% increase on your working capital limit. Do you want to use that or not? So similar type of things help the customer saying ki I have given consent for the data, and against that data I am getting such hyper recommendations that help the customers to bring faith as well as strong value or the faith on the organizations, and that creates value in the data sharing and all. Otherwise it is just simply doesn't make sense without giving him the value back.
Thanks. Because you want to add to
Yeah,
this.
I would like to add. See, this is more of a give and take relationship, right? And what you are taking from the customer, you have to clearly articulate what you can give to them, right? For example, one simple example in terms of a layman. Suppose Google is capturing the information when I commute from in the morning to office and then back to home, right? So this data is helping Google to decide where is the problem, traffic problem on the route, right? And then in turn, what I am getting is probably if Google shares the alerts with me just before I start my commute, right? So that is the value I am getting out of the data. So these systems have to learn from the data only that will be provided by all of us, but they have to give the value back to us. Similarly, another example could be, say, if to understand the customer spending pattern, right? They are requesting an access to my bank statements, right? At the same time, they can start sending me recommendation also that you are overspending. This is the area you have to cut down, right? Or on the health side, you're spending less. So, but the choice of sharing that data and what value I need from it, or what value they can give to me, will be discussed in through the consent shared upfront. So there's a lot of value that you can pass on back to the customer in exchange of the data that they're sharing.
This was a wonderful example. You want to add, Mohit? Yeah.
I mean, you rightly said that the kind of data which Google, or for that matter any other apps that collect, and that should give us back. Having said that, today the customers are very much tech savvy. I can give you a lot of examples that even in our tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities or villages also, everyone is tech savvy and everyone is looking for something in return, the kind of data they give you. Today, what customer is looking for, basically the main thing which customer is looking for is the loan amount and the interest rates, because that is something which is very very typical to each and everyone. So if he is getting that satisfaction that by giving some additional data, if he is going to get some additional let's say loan amount also, he is very much happy. That fine, even if I'm giving 10 things which are very personal to me, but I'm getting some leverage from them, so they will be also very happy, they will also part with that data. And I have seen this in my day to day life also, that people don't mind giving these kind of things when you offer them such critical things. I mean, I remember, I can give you one example in layman's language, that if you have a guest and if he says that he has an urgency to check his mails, and you share your Wi-Fi password, and if he is checking his mails, you also feel ki theek hai, chalo, I have helped him. But if moment he starts downloading a movie with your Wi-Fi, then you will also feel ki yaar, what is this nonsense? I mean, it is not adding any value addition, unnecessarily he is doing so this. So I mean, my point of view was ki if there is no value addition to it, then really things can go wrong, and customer can feel bad, and at times customer can stop coming to you, because ultimately lending business today, the cost of acquisitions are so high, so you don't want to lose a customer once it is inside. So it's always better to go and service the same customer and keep offering him the bouquet of services you have, so that your cost of acquisitions are also nil. So all these things play a very important role in our day to day financing and even value additions. So that's it. Thank you.
So getting back into what Vikas said about Google, So abhi आप, you will have read abhi hum padhte hain mindfulness, peace, calmness. So I'll just tell you an example as it's happening practically. So morning while going to office, I download Buddha Principle from YouTube. I used to watch the video one day. The other day I did Shaolin Master. Right. The next day at 8 a.m. when I log in, only Buddha's Principle or Shaolin Master comes. Nothing else comes. I didn't realize it when I went back in the evening. I coming back, I heard how hear the TED talks. So nothing comes. Shaolin Master disappear, Buddha disappears, only TED talk comes. So I think that's intangible data. What is whatever behavioral techniques you say, what YouTube is understanding and throwing it up. As what Mohit and Parvash also said, like if we do a loan against the securities, which is a secure lending. So we say 750 plus score, you get 10 basis point less. Okay, if you share your Aadhaar and CIBIL, you skip 3 channels of scrutinization. So those are the tangible assets, value by which the customer gets, and then they are willing to share more data. Otherwise, it's a normal, normal rec rate what they get.
Wonderful way of making the customer realize that whatever they are sharing gives value back to them immediately. Wonderful. So where does this go? Maybe Pravas, next question to you. Looking at the regulatory compliance aspect and invent of technology, do you see this lending space tilting towards privacy first approach from a compliance standpoint, or do you see this going into a very deeper personalization? What's your take?
Yeah, it's not a binary choice, whether personalization or privacy. So it is always has to go hand in hand, or probably I can say privacy based personalizations. Give you a similar example what we are discussing about the, let's say, same bank statement, right? So what happens when you give loans, or you check the bank statement of a customer, probably an SME, you see, let's say, his most of the income coming from his vendor is on 15th, right? And as an organization, you put your check for EMI on 5th. So it put a lot of pressure on that, but MSME or SME to arrange money on 5th, because he doesn't have money, right? He has to arrange somewhere to pay you as an EMI. So there you can actually recommend, hey, your payment is coming on 15th. So do you want to shift that from 5th to 15th? So these sort of recommendations definitely help the customers to stick to you and help him. At the same time, if you have seen last couple of quarters back, there are a lot of lenders who were fetching data like your contact numbers, contact numbers, social media data, right? And because of which they were exploiting people. Lot of suicidal cases happened. Then Google as well as the regulators came heavily on all those aspects. So yeah, so there has to be a balance, and all the panel also discussed about it. What type of data you really require to underwrite a case rather than exploit the customers. And second, you should not be very creepy about all those data points what you need, and don't collect the data which you really do not need it. I mean, मैं कभी use करूँगा, so that should not be the factor while collecting the data from the customers. Whatever you require, you become very transparent, saying कि I require these are the data, and it will help you in this sense. So that would help both the lenders as well as the customers to have confidence on the data and data processing, as well as what are the consent he is giving for those data. And you have to also be very, very transparent, creating a consent management system. You have given consent for this, and it is in your hand when to wipe those data from my systems. So that has to be also in place to offer hyper personal offerings, as well as creating trust among the customers to give you or share you those data.
Thanks. This was very insightful, Pravash. You said that first of all, it will never be binary. They will go both hand in hand for sure. In fact, it should be privacy-based personalization. That was very good. And a lean principle in terms of collecting the data. And at the same time, the clear explanation of the consent and the usage. All of that when combined, I think it will become a privacy-based personalization. It will never become binary at all. Uh, Takes me to the next question and an example of like how today in the era of personalization, when we visit Amazon, they already know what we are wanting to purchase. And when it comes to purchase, and this is just an example, do you think the lender should know what product the customer is looking at, and the instead of when customer is clicking on that particular product or the page, that's when you hit the BRE and then you get the offer instead of that. uh, how does it make sense that lender should be already ready with the probable choice of a product by the customer and be ready with an offer? I mean, is it too much or not so too much? I mean, is reality, want to understand for lenders, how does it play out? And maybe Sirish, I'll start from you. What's your take on this?
Very interesting thought. So I'll just give a situation here. Say a person is there, he just a student who just graduated, and suddenly he gets a message that yes, for higher education we offer an education loan to him. Wow, it's a feel good factor for that guy. Okay, and you are eligible, you can offer. That's a great offer. He go ahead and do it. He registered, he goes into a loan account, does all the application downloading, and everything is done. Consent taken, terms and condition, everything disbursed, everything is done. Now comes the bad part. He goes in a mall, and one of the car ka showroom में it is happening, and suddenly a message comes, why don't you buy a car? Okay, why don't you buy a car? We offer a car loan. So he ignores for first time, say, okay, maybe this application they would have detected, okay, stop. He goes near an hospital and suddenly, oh, I have checked your BP last day. It was 150 and more. So why don't you take a loan and go for a health checkup? Such kind of message if starts coming in, then the problems start. Then the trust factors come in place. How it is to be taken up, what sort of data their team is collecting in. So personalization for a certain period is okay. Giving an example, education loan, he got a loan at that particular time, it is good factor for him, it's a feel good wow factor for him. But similarly, if you start doing the same thing again and again for that customer itself at an extent, then it's a bad. It is like in a movie, a guy is there, a girl is going in and he suddenly see कि हाँ she's been robbed, and he comes fighting करते हैं, you say हाँ he is a hero, he has saved a girl. But similarly वो लड़की जा रही है और उसके पीछे पीछे वो जाते रहते, you tell अरे बाबा ये क्या कर रहा है, he is a stalker. So it is in the similar line. You have to find a very thin line. What to personalize, at what extent it has to be personalized, what offer you have to give in. That is what the information you have to give.
And maybe I can add and share personal experience on this, right? I believe some of the lenders are overdoing it and doing it inefficiently, right? So from almost last 3 years, almost daily I get 2 calls from the same lender. I won't name it, right? For the loan. And it's so
We all know the
irritating.
name, you don't have to even mention.
It's so irritating. On top of that, they probably are not realizing that they are wasting their own resources, right? So if they want to follow Amazon in terms of personalizations, they have to improve on their algorithms. They need to understand their customer better, that actually there is a need or not, or you are just blindly pushing those bulk email messages, leveraging bots and technology. So yeah, I think that's
So adding to that, these two are very unrelated, in my opinion. What recommendations you get in Amazon is primarily basis your search history. That means you had some requirements, basis that Amazon is only recommending you. In terms of loan, unless and until you become a customer, I do not have a lot of information about you, right? And the second point is I can only buy those informations from outside, which is not regulatorily right, and also not very useful, because I don't, I can't process all those informations or data, right? So, but if you are a customer, then I definitely know your spending pattern, I definitely know your income level, I definitely know your aspirations. Then I can, actually personalize your requirement and offer the products. Similarly, the way Amazon is doing, because you are a customer, you are searching, your search history is there, basis which Amazon is recommending. But for a new acquisitions, just I am never a customer. Like he said, every day you get an WhatsApp message saying ki, hey, 50,000 rupees is approved or 5 lakh rupees is approved, please proceed further. So those type of things should be banned and should not be there.
I think taking cues from the example that if you go to a car showroom and immediately if you get an offer for auto loan, it could look creepy, but I think maybe if I spend 20 minutes there and after that if I get an offer, maybe it will not feel so creepy. It will look like that, whoever is doing it right. Maybe it also depends on the design principle of when do you want to intervene and kind of help the customer. Maybe some of the customers will not like, but if somebody has spent 20 minutes inside a showroom, uh, people go to showroom to buy the car, right? They don't go to showroom to get their car serviced, right? That's workshops jobs. So I think
No, absolutely. So that is a contextual recommendations, and that contextual recommendations is definitely is upcoming, and you will find that, right? But the data what you have today probably is not enough to give you those contextual recommendations. So I mean, you are in a particular circle of, let's say, 50 meters, 100 meters of that particular car showroom, you spend 20 minutes there. So somebody has to analyze those data, feed into the your LOS LMS. You have an algo, basis those algo, you have a recommendations, you push it to that particular customers. It requires lot of ecosystem enablement rather than only looking at lenders and all. Definitely, but that's definitely is going to come. I mean, you can't stop it.
So I think we are essentially talking about a multi-facet input parameter going into the product design and philosophy in the first place. Privacy is one part, context is the second part, the right amount of intervention at the right time with the right channel, when done wonderfully well, and which is very difficult, easier said than done, it can actually enhance the customer experience. And that's when they will value the amount of data that they are sharing with the outer world. So I understand this point. I think wonderfully explained, Pravas. Thanks for giving input. Brings me to the last point today, the last question to the panel, and this is about the young generation, millennials, some millennials and a lot of Gen Zs who are a little more conscious about data privacy, but at the same time they definitely want a personalized service, and there is an inherent contradiction. So how do you handle as a lender or any service provider that customer wants personalization, but at the same time they're very conscious of privacy, and maybe many a times the people who are interfacing these customers are not the most tech savvy, and how do you handle such a situation? Maybe Mohit, if you would like to take up this question.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is one of the very interesting topics, especially the youngsters, the Gen Zs, and the because these are the actual potential customers, and they are very very finicky about sharing the data and getting into their space. So but then at the same time, I have seen that if you offer them instant loan or let's say a discounted rate and all, they will be very happy to share immediately whatever data you require. uh, Unlike the old school people, someone like me, I would like to go give hard copies, go sit in the brick and mortar kind of uh, environment, and then share data so that I know that where things are coming up and how things are coming up. So when it comes to the younger generation, we have to handle it very very carefully. Otherwise, if they sense the smallest issue, no, I mean, they can literally blow things out of proportion, and you know how social media and everything works today, so it can literally backfire on not only you, but it can backfire on the organization also. So you have to be very very careful. And as I said, that if you are offering them some values, then they definitely will be ready to go one step additional, and they can definitely give you a lot of data. I mean, it's like a normal thing that if you are visiting their social media profile once in a while, they will be okay. But if you start visiting their social profile every day, obviously you will be called as a stalker, and it's very normal, this thing. So when it comes to the Gen Z kind of profile, you will need to be little extra cautious. I'll not say too much cautious, but little extra cautious. And you know, what normally should be done is whatever data you are taking from them, it's always better that you run past through your compliance and your risk, so that you know the kind of data you are asking them is from a controlled kind of a thing, and you don't end up asking a lot of data and you don't give them anything in return. So my view on this point is we should be little extra cautious on that. Thank you.
I see this particular segment, specifically Gen Z, is the most riskiest segment for a lending company. Why? Because they do not have any credit history. None of the lenders have any history, whether it is a credit history, repayment history, their income, expenses. These details are never in the ecosystem, right? So when you look at for the first time any such customer, you have to get those informations. Otherwise, you can't give a loan, right? It's not like any retail products, consumer products where you can sell it against the money. It is like you are giving the money, right? You want your money back. So you need those informations, and GNG has to give. There is no second way of doing it unless and until your AI and ML can predict this. So now you are creating personas, right? Basis millions of such customers, you can actually create or predict such personas basis few data points where you can actually give a smaller ticket size loan, then top it up, then basis their repayment history, you can go larger ticket loans and all. So those are the possibilities, but because these are significantly riskier segment, probably I have to look at them in a different way.
I think very different view that you have given, that it's not just about respecting privacy, but if you are in the business of lending money, you need to know enough about the customer. So there is another side of the coin as well to this. Thanks Ross for this input. And with that, we come to the end of this panel discussion. And thank you, fellow panelists, for sharing your insights and thoughts. And thanks to the wonderful audience for being patient all this while. I thank you all once again for being here. And thank you, panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Please.
So, answering that, so what we are currently looking at is it's not a laundry list of consent what you give. So whenever, whether it is a Gen Z or for that matter any customers, traditional way of doing it is you have A to G number of terms and conditions, consents. Then he clicks key I accept all this and submit. Then only you proceed further, right? Now what we are looking at is every stage you take a consent. For an example, you are giving a KYC consent. So whenever you are submitting your KYC documents, there is a consent of KYC. and there is you enable the customers to wipe out that KYC after a certain point in time. So the key is with them. Similarly, the next one is the bureau consent. You take a consent for the bureau, saying I am taking consent for the bureau, but you can actually, your bureau report you can also view. At the same time, if you want to wipe this record, because as a lender, I need to keep it for certain periods, right? That's a regulatory requirement. I have to keep for that matter. Beyond that, you can, you have all the, rights to remove that from my system. As I was telling earlier, so it's not only owned by an entity or the organizations, it's a co-owned data, right? So when you put or think or, design your product offering, the entire, journey in the similar way, or, dividing those consent in different parts, giving access to the customers, to remove that, or getting those detail of the data where it is being used, probably that will help.
Maybe I would add to that. So, see, DPDP Act is coming up, right? And the way we have to see this entire consent management is into two parts. One is which is required to make those standard offerings to you for which you have reached to the lender, right? And the second part would be what kind of personalization you need. So that those consents would be optional, and that data would be either stored or discarded depending on your consent. And this is where I feel it would evolve the entire consent management, wherein you have the choice to share the mandatory data. If you don't want to share, you will exit from the journey, and there onwards you will have option of standard products only. But if you share 10 other consents, then it will make it more personalized for you, and the degree of personalization to hyper personalization would be completely dependent on what amount of data you want to share.
I would like to have another question, follow-up question, which is on emerging challenges in the coming next 3 years to 5 years down the line. So, with respect to data privacy.
Yeah, the biggest challenge is consent management. Everybody knows whenever you visit a website, there is a consent for the, whether you have accepted a terms and conditions. So many softwares we download, we accept those terms and conditions. But today, if you ask me how many such consent I had given, I do not have any idea. And I'm sure none of you have idea about how many times you have given your consent for that particular services. Right? So unless and until there has to be a consent management system where you can see I have given, hundreds of websites where I have given my consent, 15 NBFCs I have given my consent for my loans, 10 banks where I have given my consent to fetch my bank statement. Unless and until you have those things in place, data privacy, I mean, whatever, shape and form you talk about it, it's not gonna work. Because you should have a control, you should have a visibility first. Control the second part. You should have visibility first on what type of consent you are given, what type of data you are sharing. So that visibility you should have first, and unless that is there, all those things are in pen and paper, in my opinion.
I think I'd like to add to it. It's a very important point. When we are talking about privacy, it's not just restricted to lending, right? It goes all the way to everything that the customer does, interacts with any web portal, any digital means, right? Now, it's very important to understand that what all places the customer has given for what all purpose. It should be known by the customer, and then at one point in time, customer should be able to withdraw consent from a single portal, right? Today, when you go to your inbox, there are 10,000 emails. If you have to unsubscribe yourself from those mailers, that itself is a humongous task, right? So we don't have a unified interface for seeing the consent. I don't know where all I have given my consent. Your previous question, that what lenders are doing on consent management, I'm sure my fellow panelists and the rest of the community will be doing enough in times to come. And obviously, with DPDP coming in place, it will not be a choice, right? But also, I think there is going to be a lot of turbulence as well. So giving an example of a CTO that I was interacting a couple of months back, that in their business model, they have a lot of customers, their model is such that, with those customers, they want to cross-sell the second journey. They acquire customers on certain cost, but later on when they cross-sell, that's when they will make money. Now, the problem with DPDP or privacy coming in for their business model is they don't have consent to pitch the next loan, right? Now, in order to get that consent, again, they have to breach the privacy of the customer and then take explicit consent. So I think the problem, while we look at the whole privacy aspect from customer's lens, we also have to keep the lens of the business, right? So there are a lot of things that needs to be done in this space, and I think we'll all will figure out. And I think it will be shaped by the regulations for sure. So we will have to walk down that path to, reach that stability in times to come. So if we don't have any other questions, I think we're good to conclude now. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Vinit sir, for all the valuable questions. Can we please have a huge round of applause for all of them? Everybody, come on.
Thank you.
And we all understood that the biggest concern for this era is especially for the people who doesn't know what permissions they are giving to the consent letter when they are just going for applications or any websites. And of course, when the consent is shared, it is very important document. So we all should know that what all value addition the company is giving or the bank is giving or any website is giving. So to conclude this topic, we all understand is it should be the privacy-based personalization, right? So all of you, I would like to request, please one more time, give a huge round of applause for all the panelists and Vinit sir, the moderator. And now I would like to request Vinit sir to please felicitate all the panelists one by one. And first would like to request Mr. Ravi Doshi to please come forward, the Chief Executive Officer, Mirai Asset Sher Khan Financial Services Limited. Next, I would like to call forward Mr. Pravesh Dash, founder and CEO, Earthen Finance. Next, Mr. Mohit Merrill, Risk Head, Vastu Finserv India Private Limited. Mr. Vikas Dhankar, CTO, Neo Growth Credit Private Limited. Mr. Sirish Mehta, Head Loan Management, IT Piramal Finance Limited. And now I would like to request Mr. Abhinav Chaudhary to please come up on the stage and felicitate the moderator, Mr. Vineet Sharma.